You good? Obviously, leading up to opening day, it's game week. The Super Bowl's over, and it's officially baseball season. And there's an excitement and a buzz. You can feel it around town, and hopefully we're ready to go. I mean, we had a really good week of preparation. Lost those 2 weeks to the weather, and did the best we could with it. And feel like we addressed a lot of the areas that were weaknesses for us a year ago, and have a lot of experienced players that have had success in the league of our caliber, and brought some really young, talented players in that we feel like are going to make a difference. Obviously, playing in a league like the Sun Belt, where your best team, is playing for a national championship, there's a lot of areas to improve and strengthen, and we feel like we addressed that. And here, hopefully, we can take the next step. We feel like we can, but we're about to find out here in a couple of days. So we felt like power arms and power bats. And a little bit more athleticism were things we needed to address in the offseason through recruiting. We feel like we did so, and so just really excited to get this thing kicked off on Friday. I know the question's going to come up, so as far as our starting rotation, we do have a rotation. We'll start Chase Richter on Friday. We'll start Jack Nelson on Saturday, and we will start Dylan Farley on Sunday. 3 left-handers, 3 seniors, 3 guys that have pitched in really big moments and big games, with Richter obviously moving from the back end to the front end of the rotation. And with that, I guess I'll open up to questions.
With Chase going to the rotation now, what does it look like on the back of the bullpen?
Yeah, by committee. I really wish I had more of a solidified answer for that, but it's going to be by committee. There's a lot of guys that are capable, have the stuff to do it. A lot of those guys lack experience. I usually traditionally like to move our rotation and build it from really the back end of the bullpen to the front of the rotation, but Chase he's earned the right to go out there on Friday night, and the innings that he pitched for us last year, really wants the opportunity to start. We feel like he's more than capable to do so. But in our back pocket, is that how this thing's going to end? Maybe not. We always feel confident that we could slide him back to the back end if we have to, and so it'll be interesting to see how that'll go. As far as guys that can do it, I really have a lot of confidence in our pitchers. I was looking at it today, and you're looking at 16, 18 guys from that rotation that I mentioned, to the Cooper Garrisons, Tyler Weimer, Andrew Allen, were 2 freshmen that we got experience last year, and they've really taken a big step forward. They'll see some time in the rotation this year as well, but they're going to pitch leverage innings for us out of the bullpen. We brought in Houston Tomlinson from Texas A&M. He's got as good a stuff as anybody. It's top of the rotation, top of the Sun Belt, this league type of stuff. As he matures and gets more consistent, where he's going to factor in for us, he's going to pitch right out the gate, out of the bullpen, and in what role, it's just going to depend kind of how the games play out, but you'll see him at times in our rotation as well. And then Ryan Ashford's a left-hander, low slot left-hander that we really went and got out of the portal when we thought we were losing Richter, because we felt like we needed left-handed help. Then you got Cole Turner coming back. He's pitched high leverage innings for us. Brett Foss. Colin Maloney's going to start the season in the bullpen. He was our Friday night guy for a lot of the season last year. Tate Collins, he's an Arkansas kid, transfer from UCA. He's been up to 96 mile an hour and really taken some big strides over the last couple of weeks. And you kind of don't. Sometimes it's better to finish second in recruiting in this thing right now, because he went and took some growing pains at UCA last year, and we feel like he's really taken some big steps forward for us. James Trimble, he was a back-end guy for Louisiana, had some back problems. He's healthy now. It's high leverage, mid to high 90s stuff with a breaking ball. Command at times can be an issue, but we got him out of the portal. And then obviously you have Jelly Vanderlele. He started and come out of the bullpen for us. Isaac Sewell's a left-handed specialist. And then we have a big physical freshman left-hander, Tatum Telfer out of Iowa. It's really big-time stuff. We're going to have to put him in situations to succeed, because the command's not quite where it needs to be yet. And then the other question that I figured we could ask is, the loss of Jack Hibbert is huge. Do I expect him to pitch this year? No. Would I put limitations that later in the season that he's advanced in his rehab, because he looks really good coming back? I'm not going to put limitations on him. We're just going to take it day by day, but I don't anticipate him pitching for us this year. It's a 12-month recovery, and his surgery date was, towards the end of June. So, but he is recovering. We expect him back, obviously, hopefully anchoring our rotation next year. And then you got Taylor C. and Wes Pritchard are both guys. Wes is a transfer from Mississippi State, coming off of Tommy John, and then Taylor C.'s a right-handed pitcher from Texas State, coming off of Tommy John. Both guys have really good stuff. Taylor's an older pitcher. He'll run up into the mid to high 90s when he's right, from a really low slot. And we felt like we needed to address different looks out of the bullpen. And we will run it a lot like we did last year, especially early with our pitchers just not getting outside for 2 weeks with the weather. But they all look good this past weekend.
3 lefty starters right out the gate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also unusual to have 3 guys that have pitched with that type of experience. And so, yeah, it is weird, and you always want to slide a right-hander in there. But at the end of the day, those guys, to have that type of experience, especially with our limited preparation, with the weather not cooperating, we just really feel like those guys are going to give us the best chance to get us off to a good start. And they're going to be on pitch counts. I don't think any of them will get to 100 pitches. You're looking at probably 70, 75, maybe 80, depending on the type of leverage moments that they're in. But they've all been out there before, and they've all done it, and that kind of gives you a comfort that they won't be too jacked up when we open the season.
You talked about wanting some more pop with this lineup. Did you address that in the portal, or did you talk to some names, or all of the above?
Yeah, great question. I guess I always start, you always start inside your locker room and just we're stronger, we're more physical, we're more athletic, but really all of our returning players are better. And I think that people throw around that word of development a lot, and really in the history of my career, I've made a living on that, and my staff has too. And really, you look at Ashton Quiller leading off. He's got as much juice as anybody in that locker room right now, and he's really developed and gotten stronger. And it's a concern for me because I need him to be a leadoff hitter, not a power hitter. And there's times where he leaves, practice feeling good because he ran one out of the yard, and I'm looking at the other 3 at bats that got away from him. And for whatever reason, he can't keep a bunt fair right now. But hopefully, he's just getting that out of his system before the season starts. But yeah, he's physically stronger, he's confident, and he's proven to be able to go out there and give us high leverage at bats. He's got the it factor when the game's on the line. You want him at the plate. He kind of lives for that moment, so that's good. And then, obviously Patrick Inskov, he had the homers last year, had the doubles last year, and he's done a really good job improving his plate discipline. But then you look at the portal, you have Jake Henry back, who is here, but you look at the freshman, Jalen Fox can leave the yard to all fields. He's a freshman out of the state of Florida. Derek Martinez, he's a freshman out of the state of Florida. It's real power. Their plate discipline experience concerns me. Our younger players are more talented than our older players. Our older players have that experience in those at-bats, but those guys are as talented as anybody in our locker room. And so if they can stay within themselves and really execute approaches, and with scouting reports at this level and the way teams prepare with video, they're going to get exposed probably at times, and how they handle that is probably going to dictate a lot of the success or how much they're in the lineup. But they're battling to be starters right now. That's the truth coming out of this weekend. I don't have a set starting lineup. Some other guys, Cougar Cook, he's a switch hitter from Show Low, Arizona. He's a transfer from Utah Valley. It's real power. He can run. He's super athletic, can play a variety of positions. He's in competition right now to be the opening day starter at third base. Haven't really made that decision yet, but he's definitely improved. And coming out of the fall, to think he'd be in the position he is now, that you think he might start. But it's real power to all fields from both sides of the plate. So his is really just plate discipline and not trying to do too much. But then you look at guys we got. Lane Walton's a junior college transfer from Hill Community College in Hillsboro, Texas. It's 6'4", it's real juice to all fields, left-handed, he can run, he can stay in the middle, he can play third, can play first. He's in competition right now to be the opening day starting second baseman. Evan Griffiths played in high leverage games last year. You can go pull his video from the regionals at Auburn when he was at Stetson, and just big offensive moments. The consistency and the numbers throughout his career haven't been there. But we needed to address a power issue, and he really does supply that for us. And he's been out there in regionals and big moments against real teams when it matters. And that power's shown up throughout the fall and early this spring. And so hopefully that continues. He's a contender right now to be in the lineup on opening day. And then Aiden Houseworth's a kid that's had multiple ACL surgeries since he's been here. He's really a freshman because of medical and red shirts, but it's his 3rd year here. And left-handed hitter, good plate discipline, still getting stronger. Will he start on opening day? He'll probably be a matchup guy in the DH spot when we're facing right-handers or left-handers. And then, that's kind of one of the things. I feel good about 13 guys in our locker room right now that I think could start for us in our lineup. I don't know really. When I get asked that question, I could probably tell you 5 guys that we're going to roll out there on opening day, and the other 4, it's probably just going to be a matchup situation, whether we're facing a left-hander or a right-hander on that day. But it's going to give us some firepower off the bench that we just haven't had in regard to left-right matchups. And there's just times, especially when we get into league play, you got to strike guys out, and that's something we struggled with a year ago. We didn't walk guys, but we struggled striking guys out. We feel like we addressed that, and there's times where somebody's going to have to run one out of the yard. You go back and look at a lot of our games that got away from us. It wasn't by a large margin, and when you're facing high-level arms against the caliber of teams that we play, the Southern Misses, the Troys, the Louisianas, obviously the Coastal Carolinas, you only get a couple whacks at those arms, a night. It's a couple opportunities to do damage, and a single's just not going to get it done. We're going to have to drive the ball, off the wall into the gap or over the fence, and we feel like these guys have the ability to do so. We feel like the standard in the locker room is the expectations we're going to go out and produce and get off to a better start than we did a year ago. And ultimately, I have addressed the weather. It was kind of how I opened this thing up, but it's not an excuse. It's the reality of it. And we have experience in there, and they need to overcome that and make sure they're ready to go and showing really our fans and our community that the program's in a different place than it was 12 months ago. And that's the type of growth that we want to see.
Coach, are you where you want to be right now headed into the season, or did the weather kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm where I want to be based on what we've been able to do. I didn't feel great about it, last week, finishing the week, but walking off the field yesterday, and I told the team that it was the most pleased I've been and the most ready I've felt. Would I like to have those 2 weeks back? Absolutely. And really, it's more from a starting pitching perspective and just the guys seeing live at-bats and being able to match up. Sunday, really Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the first time we ran our inter-squad games like a real game and brought guys out of the bullpen to match up and try to replicate the looks that they're going to get and how teams are going to try to attack them. So yeah, we feel as ready as we can be. Like I said, we can't get those days back. We did the best we could with the resources that we have. Obviously, we've addressed that from an administrative standpoint with the player development facility coming. We don't feel like we'll hopefully be in this position again, or we're missing those live at-bats in that time. And that's hats off to our administration and our donors and our community for stepping up, because it is a necessity here. The worst weather I feel like we get, and I think you guys would agree, is when we get back from Christmas break and you have a 4-week window to prepare for the season. On a different topic, they're talking about potentially, for the first time, moving the season back to the 1st of March. I think that would be ideal for the growth of the game, not just from preparing players to get ready to go, but in the reality for fans. Nobody wants to come out there when it's freezing and raining and snowing and all that. I know you guys love it, but I don't think the rest of us do. So,
Coach, it typically takes a while for the identity of the team to show up. With the makeup of this team, what do you hope that identity of this team is?
yeah, well, I mean, tough, gritty, hard hat, lunch pail type of players. I want to be able to put pressure on people. We couldn't run well enough last year to be able to do that on days we weren't hitting, and you guys saw that in our first 12 games. We couldn't score runs. We really got going with guys buying into the short game that really couldn't run. That really shouldn't have been their game, and we kind of had to ask them to do that. Now we feel like each player kind of has an idea of their identity, and there's guys that are going to strike out a little bit more, but they're going to challenge the fence, and we feel like that's going to be something that is going to show up early in the season for us, and I think our fans will be able to see that. But really being able to steal bags, hit and run, squeeze, safety squeeze, really put pressure and manufacture runs. I didn't feel like last year, I guess the best way to say it is, last year the game had to play out a certain way for us to have a chance to win. I feel like that the whole season. And so we got behind early, it was really difficult for us. And if we got up early, we really couldn't blow it open. There was very few games that we had the opportunity to blow wide open and really save our bullpen. This year we feel like we're going to have the ability to do that. And then defensively, we feel like we're more athletic. Obviously, we have Amundsen behind the plate. He's been a staple. He's been my starter for 4 years. There's nothing he hasn't seen. We feel like he's a better offensive player than he was. But defensively, as far as shutting down the running game and some other ways that teams would attack us last year, we feel like we addressed those. And so ultimately, you get concerned opening weekend because nobody's going to listen to me starting tomorrow. It's an off day for the players today, but they're going to be jacked up and excited to go play, as they should be. So like I told the staff when we walked out of the locker room last night, this is kind of what we're going to be next weekend. There's not a whole lot. We're going to have them ready to go. Practice will be about 2 hours long this week, try to keep them fresh, but they're ready to go play somebody else. I don't think we're ready to go play somebody else, but as a player, they're ready to go see somebody else, and they should be. And I'm not taking that moment from the players. I never have. I'm a big believer this is a player's game. It's a kid's game played by young men, but it's a player's game. And their energy and enthusiasm and excitement level to go and play, I would say even from a year ago, is higher. I think they're confident. I think they know that we have to continue to improve through the course of the season, and we have to be able to win games in a multitude of ways, to answer the question that you asked. And I feel like we've addressed that. Now they got to trust it and go out and execute. Because one of the messages that I tell them in the locker room is, once you take all the emotion out of today, it's really just going to come down to execution. Did you go out? Could you stay within yourself and do your job at a high level and trust it? And if we do that enough, I think it's going to be a really exciting, fun season.
You guys Stony Brook coming in this week. Just what have you seen from them?
Yeah, I mean, look, they've been Omaha in the last decade. And to address that, not just Stony Brook, if you look at our schedule. We start with Stony Brook, who's walked through the gates of Omaha. And then we just take a day off going down to Oxford on a Tuesday. They've won the national title in recent history. You start looking at what comes up that next week. Eastern Illinois won their conference last year. You go to Arkansas, who's as good as any team in the country year in and year out, for a double midweek. You get home from that and you have a Pine Bluff, a much improved Arkansas Pine Bluff team. Their staff has done a tremendous job. And then, you get done with that weekend, you go for a double midweek at Louisiana Tech. If you look at their recent history, it's tremendous. And then you go to Oral Roberts, who 2 years ago was in Omaha, and then, by the way, you open up conference with Southern Miss at home. So I wanted it that way. This is really a measuring stick year for me to kind of really find out where our program's at. You know, last year, that first year is you're just trying to piece this thing together and put a quality product on the field. And I thought our improvement through the course of the season, coupled with the support that our fan base gave us as we started playing better baseball, was tremendous. And this year's a measuring stick. It's not going to be easy. We're not going to go undefeated. We're going to face a lot of adversity. But if we're really going to talk about being a consistent contender in this league and trying to get in the top quarter of this league, and we got to challenge ourselves and get exposed early on and find out the things we need to improve on. Now, having said that, really good teams get exposed and they still find a way to get the job done. I feel like we have enough talent in that locker room to do so. But there are a lot of really talented, inexperienced players, and even our experienced players have never won at this level at a high level, not playing significant roles like we're asking them to do, whether that's our returners or our portal guys. And so, yeah, is there a concern for that? Absolutely. But you know, there's also an opportunity for that, right? So it's right in front of us, and we got to go out and take a big step forward this year. And I think every player in that locker room will tell you, and every coach, that you want to be challenged. In this league, you're going to be challenged every night, and so we want to be challenged. And we're going to be challenged early, and we're going to have an opportunity to grow. And I think if you saw the second half of the season last year, that growth was on full display. If we can accelerate that this year, this conference season could be a lot of fun.
Hibbard was a freshman who broke through last year.
Yeah.
Do you think any of these freshmen this year might be in the same situation?
Absolutely. Houston Tomlinson, like I said, the kid from Texas A&M, you know, he's got good stuff in anybody in that locker room. And his development from the start of the fall to today and his confidence level is probably an all-time high. That's from the pitching perspective. I actually wrote this down in here. From a position player perspective, Jalen Fox, Derek Martinez, you know, Houseworth's technically a freshman. Yeah, he broke through just like Quiller did last year. I mean, a lot of people look at Ashton this year. He's a preseason all-conference selection. That's not voted on by me. That's by the coaches and the SIDs from the other teams. But, man, go look at his numbers the first half of last season and then look at the player he's turned himself into. So I think that Jalen Fox and Derek Martinez can do that. I think on the pitching side of it, too, you know, Ryan Ashford, I think he pitched 1 inning for Miami last year. I think he could be a breakout caliber player. And then, you know, Tatum Telfer, it's a left-hander up to 94, 95 mile an hour at times. You know, small-town kid from the state of Iowa. I think he was one of the number one rated pitchers, number one rated left-handed pitcher coming out of the state. You know, us being able to get him here onto campus, and his growth has been really good, but there's going to be some inconsistencies early, and we're going to have to really find the right slots to get him in there and get him experience. But if he gets going, you know, it's really good stuff. And so I'm excited and as intrigued as I guess you guys are to see that development. And that's a weird thing probably for a coach to say, but I'm intrigued to see what we look like. We feel like we're much improved, and obviously that's why they play the games. But you know, I'm looking forward to seeing where this program can go. I feel like when we got here, you know, just over 19 months, bearing down on 20 months ago, you know, I feel like looking at it today, sitting in that office, looking at that roster, watching the talent walk around that field, you know, I feel like we're putting ourselves in a position to put a really quality product out there. But ultimately, it's about young people going out to execute and then not riding that roller coaster of emotions. You know, opening day, and I hate to say that, you asking about Stony Brook, I hope we go play well. I'm not gonna really be devastated if it doesn't go the way we want it to. My expectation is we go out and play well every night, but there's so much emotion involved in opening day. I mean, there is, from a coaching perspective, and you know, baseball is meant to have about a 6-week window of actually playing outside competition before you start really playing games that count. You don't get that at this level currently, and so, you know, I'm intrigued to see what we look like, and I know we're going to be playing really good competition. You go look at Stony Brook's league and what those teams have done in regionals, it's tremendous. So they're going to be good. I mean, they're going to be really good, and that's part of the reason we scheduled them, and I'm appreciative of them coming down. I expect it to be a really challenging opening weekend.